Today's video covers a rumor on the Final Fantasy series. I assume you know what that word means, and that all rumors are reported purely for the fun of speculation and should be assumed false until officially confirmed. With that out of the way, let's get started. The Final Fantasy brand is absolutely killing it right now. Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy XIV are hugely successful titles, and are also well loved and very well received by fans. Not to mention the upcoming Final Fantasy XVI, which might just be the best mainline single-player Final Fantasy in a long time. Oh yeah, and I guess there's Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, which is, yeah. In either case, Final Fantasy is getting some bangers right now, and it looks like it has more on the horizon. However, what does Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy XIV, and Final Fantasy XVI all have in common? Of course, the fact that they are PlayStation console exclusive. Of course, you can play these games on PC. However, and especially in the cases of Final Fantasy VII and XVI, you'll be waiting quite a while before you're able to play them on PC. Despite last generation, it seems that PlayStation is once again the home of Final Fantasy. But boy does it seem weird from Square Enix to go from being a multi-platform publisher with this game to then revert back to being PlayStation exclusive. There's been a lot of rumors and speculation on why this has been, including the idea that Square could be bought by Sony or joining PlayStation Studios, a rumor from a while back that was supposedly disproven and has not come to fruition. And thank God, because I really wouldn't want Square Enix to be owned by Sony or Microsoft at all. However, according to today's rumor, it's not a Square Enix decision. However, it's Sony that doesn't want Mainline Final Fantasy to come to Xbox. VGC journalist Jordan Miller had this to say when speaking on the matter on Reset Era's forums, with him saying, quote, "Most of Square's stuff will end up on Xbox, but I wouldn't hold hope for Final Fantasy unless something changes. Sony wants PlayStation to be the home of Final Fantasy this gen. FF7 was supposed to come to Xbox by now, but here we are. It's interesting to see Ubisoft side with Xbox more and more this gen, while Square is firmly in Sony's camp even beyond what's publicly known," which is definitely implying something. However, if you are a Giga Chad and you prefer PC gaming, which thank you for clicking my video, King, you will be able to play these games on PC, but you might be waiting quite a while before you do. With him saying, quote, "Square is keen to keep putting everything on PC, even if the ports aren't great. Timed exclusives. And indeed, great these PC ports are not. I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate on PC over on my Twitch channel. Not a totally shameless plug, but twitch.tv/TheNightSkyPrince. And while I am full glad that I can finally play this game on PC with ultimate graphical quality, I've had to come up with a number of homebrewed solutions in order to get the micro-stuttering to stop happening, the game to stop crashing, and numerous other issues that I've been having with it. Not to mention bugs where the game was once stuck in Japanese and I couldn't switch it to English, one where the button prompts changed to Xbox button inputs, and I don't even own an Xbox controller. And I wasn't using DS for Windows, this bug just happened randomly. And for a full-priced port, all these issues need to be fixed before I can give this a solid recommendation. It does suck that the PlayStation exclusivity does seem to be continuing for those who own an Xbox. And for those on PC, it sucks that we're gonna have to wait even longer for those games to come to PC. But in full honesty, it just makes sense for Square to prioritize PlayStation over Xbox. When you consider the sales of previous Final Fantasy games, it's quite clear that Final Fantasy sells way stronger on PlayStation than it does Xbox. About a month after Final Fantasy XV first launched, 79% of sales were made on PlayStation 4, and only 21% were made on Xbox. As the game approaches almost 10 million units sold, some estimates put the game only at 1 million on Xbox, meaning that maybe 10% of the game's overall sales were made on the platform. While yes, Final Fantasy does technically sell on Xbox, it isn't very significant compared to what it sells on PlayStation. And with Sony being willing to write those exclusivity checks, who could really blame Square? It really does just make business sense for the games to be on PlayStation. That being said, I can see Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy XVI coming to Xbox at some point, but probably not in the near future. Just like Nier Automata did years after the PlayStation and PC versions came out. This also makes me assume that FF7 Remake 2 will probably be a PlayStation timed exclusive just like its predecessor. But regardless if the rumor is true or not, one thing remains clear. These games are definitely still PlayStation timed exclusives. And so if you're interested in playing these games, then you better get a PlayStation 5, because otherwise you're going to be waiting to play these games for quite a long time. But with all of that said and done, Ultima, I want to hear from you. What do you make of this console exclusivity? Subscribe, click the bell icon, and let me know in the comments below. And if these videos mean a lot to you, consider becoming a patron like Kane Edwards, who helps keep the channel going and growing. Link in the description below.